With the last game being played in the 2024 NFL season, we can finally look towards next year. And what we're going to do during the offseason is we're going to start taking a look at some possible pending free agents that the Baltimore Ravens can add to this team to make a Super Bowl run in 2025. Now, me personally, I am an offensive guy. I love offense. I think that is the key to winning a Super Bowl, especially for the Baltimore Ravens. But today, I am going to say it. The Ravens should look into signing a defender. With all that went on during the Super Bowl and watching how the Eagles applied pressure to Patrick Mahomes, there's a blueprint. There's always been a blueprint, but the Ravens have gone the wrong way about it. They've signed older free agents that only stayed for a few years. They've missed on some draft picks, but there is one guy that I will say showed out, and that being defensive end Sweat. For me and myself and many, we all believe that Sweat should have been the Super Bowl MVP with 2.5 sacks, bringing down Patrick Mahomes and making his life miserable. He had 8 pressures and 5 hurries in one game. The Philadelphia Eagles as a whole had 27 pressures, and that just shows even if you have one of the, if not the greatest quarterback of all time, if you get him off his spot, you can make him look like the average Joe. Now, the question that everybody is going to bring up is, what is it going to take to get Sweat? Are the Philadelphia Eagles going to franchise tag him? But if you look at the history of the Philadelphia Eagles, they have no problems with letting one of their sack leaders go. Michael Huff, I think he had 10.5 sacks. They let him move on. Hassan Reddick was the master at creating havoc and putting pressure on the quarterback. They traded him away last season. So they have no issues with moving on from somebody a year early or not paying big money to certain players and just replacing them. We've said it in videos before, Howie Roseman is masterful at the draft. He's masterful at circumventing the salary cap and bringing in free agents at the right price. So even though the franchise tag is not officially off the table, the Ravens can still maneuver around it and get this player. The biggest question, though, is going to be the asking price, because the Ravens are a little bit cash strapped when it comes to the salary cap, and they still have to make a decision on what they're going to do with Ronnie Stanley. But if anything, the Ravens need to look in getting this pass rusher from Florida State. Yes, the Florida State, and this is not the reason why I want him. This is a dominant pass rusher who can provide pressure all on his own. You don't need blitzes. You don't need special stunts. One-on-one, he can just wreak havoc. Sweat now in his 7th, going into his 8th year. He was also in the draft with Lamar Jackson and was picked up by the Eagles in the 4th round with the 130th pick. And can you guess who the Ravens took 12 picks ahead? Anthony Averett. Yes, that Anthony Averett. Solid player, but nothing spectacular. So other teams can find these gems in the draft where the Ravens are repeatedly out there looking for guys who are pretty much just guys, and other teams are finding diamonds in the rough. So in one fell swoop, the Ravens can bring in what ails them, and that is a desperate need for pass rusher. I know a lot of people want to get Myles Garrett or Max Crosby, but that seems a little bit far-fetched, especially with the salary cap situation. And Myles Garrett being traded within division, unlikely to happen. When you talk about Max Crosby, we don't even know if the Raiders are going to let him go, and he is still owed a few coins on his deal. So those things are highly unlikely unless they can make a trade and restructure, but they would still take a big salary cap hit. Now with Sweat, they can give him a long-term deal, backload the contract, get creative with the cap while bringing in a player that they desperately need. Yes, Odafe Owe is on the upswing, but he disappears during games. Now, he'll have a spurt where he can get a few sacks in a game, then he goes missing and he does it again. We need a guy like Sweat that consistently gets the job done. Throughout his career, Sweat has had 43 sacks and 7 forced fumbles. But more importantly, when the lights shined the brightest, he showed up and he showed out. These are the players that we need during the playoff run. We don't need guys that are flashy, get the numbers during the regular season, and then flame out when the postseason begins. And I know that a lot of Ravens fans believe that the pass rush is of utmost importance. We cannot get by with what we've had with the flame out and draft picks. Listen, Kyle Van Noy is going to be 35 years old. We cannot continue to expect him to garnish career highs each and every season as he gets older and older. Tavis Robinson, he's getting a little bit better. I don't expect him to be that 8 to 10 sack guy. Odafe Owe, hopefully he continues his ascension, but we're not getting anything out of Adisa Isaac. We're definitely not getting anything out of David Ajabo. And who's left? I think this is time for the Ravens to go all in and get somebody that can make a difference. Stop getting guys for the right price just to come in and be marginal. Just for someone to come fill the status quo to say, look, we signed this name to bring in and not do anything during the postseason. Go out and get the best guy available. And as of this moment, to me, Josh Sweat is the clear #1 pass rusher available. And even if they franchise tag him, do whatever you need to do. It is time to go all in. We cannot keep pushing things forward saying, well, if these guys develop, if this project comes around, maybe. Yes, the Ravens are not that far off from a Super Bowl, but it is clear that there are levels to this when it comes to the postseason. You have really good teams and you have dominant teams. And the Eagles were dominant. They laid the blueprint on how the Ravens should be. I just read an article the other day asking, are the Eagles actually playing like a Raven, building smart, tough football teams that get it done in the trenches like the Ravens used to do? We don't play smart. We don't play discipline. We get pushed around by smaller teams like we did in the postseason. Are we actually playing like a Raven? Or do we just pretend and use that moniker to make us feel better about what we're doing? For me, I think that this is a move that shows the Ravens, it shows Lamar Jackson that this organization is serious about winning a championship. And for me, this is a lot because I said it before. I'm a person that loves offense. I think that Lamar Jackson should get weapons. I think he deserves weapons. I think he deserves that protection. But defensively, if we're going to keep going down this road of defense, we need to get somebody that's going to come in and make a difference. Do not bring me a second-tier guy and hoping that he outperforms his contract. Bring in somebody that we knows is that guy. We made that mistake a few years ago when we decided we needed a safety. There was Tyrann Mathieu and Marcus Williams that were available during free agency. And of course, the Ravens said, well, you know what? He may not be #1, but he is cheaper. So we're going with the cheaper option. And we saw how that worked out. Tyrann Mathieu, what did he do? He went out and won a Super Bowl. His talent and his leadership proved that, hey, I'm worth this money and I can make a difference. So when it comes to the pass rush, when it comes to finding a pass rusher or shurs, whatever, how the Ravens construct this team, we need to go out there and get the best guy. Stop playing games. Go all in. Don't mess around with guys and say, yeah, well, you know what? Next year, we'll get this guy in the draft. Or next year, this guy may be let go from his team because he's not performing like he used to. Get a guy in his prime. Get a guy on the biggest stage. Showed the F out. Dominated one of the greatest quarterbacks in the game. 2.5 sacks in the Super Bowl. Should have been Super Bowl MVP. There are not going to be that many times in the NFL when a player of this caliber possibly may become available. And with the way the Eagles do business, it's a real possibility. There's a real chance that the Ravens can go out here and get this player and make a difference for this squad. So I'm going against all my judgment, even though I would like to add some pieces offensively. But when it comes to being the first in line of talking about free agents the Ravens should get, this is going to be the guy that I'm starting with. Philadelphia showed me some things. The Philadelphia laid that blueprint, and I want the Ravens to follow it. Now it is up to Eric DeCosta and the rest of the Ravens brass to determine if this is the route that they want to take. Or will we still do the same old and get second and third tier guys and just hope that it works out? Because for the last 7 years, it hasn't.
Nah, man, I'm cool.